Information systems designers and publishers are keenly interested in how to retain users. Accordingly, information systems researchers are eager to supply theories to explain and predict users' intentions to continue to use information systems. Many different theoretical approaches have been considered to predict continuance intentions. However, these existing models often focus on users' extrinsic motivations, such as desires for productivity, efficiency, and general utility. They fail to fully explain the range of intrinsic and extrinsic motivations that influence continuance intentions. Differentiating between users' intrinsic and extrinsic motives is particularly relevant for encouraging positive user interactions in an online context. Several studies have extended extrinsic motivation models or created new models to address users' intrinsic motivations. However, these models that attempt to predict intrinsic motives of system use often ignore extrinsic motives. Additionally, most prior studies do not separately conceptualize the different types of intrinsic motivations, such as hedonic motives like pleasure, and intrinsic motives like learning, and they do not measure the successful fulfillment of intrinsic motivations independently from that of extrinsic motivation. Also, they often fail to take into consideration user expectations, which are a key component of all interactions and are directly predicted by motivations. Seeking to fill this gap in the literature on expectations, in 2004, Bhattacharjee and Prem Kumar successfully predicted continuance intention while accounting for expectations, but did so in an extrinsic-only context. To address this opportunity, we build on their model to propose a new theoretical model, namely the Multi-Motive Information Systems Continuance Model, or MISC. MISC explains and predicts the discrete cognitive processes through which systems fulfill a range of intrinsic and extrinsic motives and expectations, and lead to continuance intentions. The MISC model is built upon expectation disconfirmation theory, or EDT, and the Bhattacharjee and Prem Kumar BNP model. These theoretical models concern whether an experience conforms to one's expectations, or if those expectations are disconfirmed or violated. Expectation refers to one's belief about future events. By nature, the human mind projects and considers future scenarios to anticipate required actions for both physical and social survival. Disconfirmation is the extent to which an event is evaluated as either exceeding or falling short of expectations. Positive disconfirmation results when perceived performance exceeds expectations, thereby causing satisfaction, whereas negative disconfirmation occurs when performance falls below expectations, causing dissatisfaction. While the BNP model is an improvement over prior models, it shares two shortcomings common to most EDT-based models, namely, an inability to predict disconfirmation sufficiently, and a failure to take into account the full spectrum of intrinsic and extrinsic motivations that drive information system use. To address these limitations, MISC builds upon the BNP model by adding three more expectations as predictors of disconfirmation, including design expectations fit, or DEF, ease of use, and design aesthetics. Beyond these three new predictors of disconfirmation, the MISC model splits expectant beliefs and disconfirmations into their naturally occurring disparate parts, including hedonic, intrinsic, and extrinsic components. In all existing models, these three different components are indistinguishable, resulting in poor prediction of disconfirmation. By separating them, the MISC model is able to predict hedonic disconfirmation with hedonic expectations, intrinsic disconfirmations with intrinsic expectations, and extrinsic with extrinsic. To test the MISC model, we randomly assigned 550 participants to one of 9 groups in a 3x3 experiment design that matched one of the 3 expectations, hedonic, intrinsic, or extrinsic, with one of the 3 designed interfaces, again hedonic, intrinsic, or extrinsic, In each of the 9 groups, we primed participants to expect either a hedonic, intrinsic, or extrinsic system interaction. But then, instead of matching them with the appropriate system, we randomly assigned them to a system, regardless of their primed expectation. After priming their task, we assessed participants' expectations. Then they interacted with the randomly assigned system, and after the interaction, they were surveyed again for assessing their disconfirmation and continuance intention. This approach enabled us to analyze the 3 separate models separately in hedonic, intrinsic, and extrinsic contexts. The results showed profoundly more power to predict disconfirmation than existing models. While existing models such as the B&P model achieve an R-square of only 9%, MISC's 3 separate models had R-squares ranging from 28 to 43%. Each of these models was also able to predict substantial variance in continuance intentions, with R-squares between 54 and 66%. Additionally, we found that expectations actually play a fairly minor role in predicting disconfirmation, even when split into 3 separate models. Instead, in the context of system use, our 3 other predictors, DEF, ease of use, and design aesthetics, are far better predictors of disconfirmation. Interestingly, ease of use is a good predictor only for extrinsically motivated interactions. Similarly, design aesthetics is a good predictor only for hedonically motivated interactions. However, design expectations fit is a critical predictor of disconfirmation for all types of expected system interactions. In summary, building on the work by Bhattacharjee and Premkumar in 2004, we develop and test the MISC model as a comprehensive model for explaining and predicting how a range of motives and expectations influences user satisfaction and continuance intentions for multiple types of information systems that have been designed with various intents. Among many other findings, the analysis reveals that design-related constructs affect performance beliefs differently depending on system intent and user motives and expectations. This suggests that system designers should leverage the MISC model to learn where to focus their efforts as they design specific systems with specific intents. Nevertheless, we show that a user's motives do not always match the intent of the system's design, which increases the need for systems to be designed to accommodate multiple motives.